The province's fiscal situations are not great. There's a lot of deficits and debt. We need mining to help us secure our economic future here in BC and across Canada. Prime Minister Carney today said it's time to build, and it is time to build.
At a time when Western governments are scrambling to secure critical mineral supply chains and reduce dependence on China, British Columbia is increasingly positioning itself as a strategic mining powerhouse. But there are some hurdles. Now, Michael Goehring, President and CEO of the Mining Association of British Columbia, joins me today on Top of Mind. It's a pleasure. Michael, thanks very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Well, look, let's start with a curtain raiser, right? I mean, you've been leading the Mining Association of BC, around about 2019 or so, before critical minerals became central to economic and geopolitical policy discussions. I'm wondering, do you think the framing of BC mining and the perception of it has somewhat changed in the last couple of years, being framed now more as a central part of economic security? How do you see it?
Well, I think things have changed here in British Columbia with respect to mining. Perhaps the perception of BC's mining sector needs to catch up somewhat to the reality on the ground. But fair enough. I think the fact is that there actually is momentum in BC's mining sector now. After years of stasis, we've started to see some change, and some important changes.
And I want to talk about that, Michael, because many are speaking about mining now in terms of economic security and national resilience, right? Not just resource development. Has the industry finally won the political argument in Canada? I mean, you were speaking to me moments ago about what the Prime Minister was talking about today.
Yes, today Prime Minister Mark Carney addressed the Greater Vancouver Board of Trade, and a key message of his today was, it is time to build. And the Mining Association of BC and all of our members are fully supportive of that message. Mining in British Columbia, and I think across Canada, has become central to our economic development plans. I think it's important to note that while mining is central to Canada, and has long been central to Canada's economic security and our prosperity, it has become more so. And if we look down the future, it's not just about economic security, it's also about sovereignty, and it's about national security.
And you've described the point at which we are at in some of your recent interviews as a once-in-a-generation opportunity for BC. But if this opportunity is so strategic, Michael, why do investors still appear skeptical about Canada's ability to execute quickly? Because that's an important one, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's vital. It's really all about Canada's ability to execute quickly. Look, I mean, for the past many years, Canada earned a reputation as a place where it was difficult to get things done.
Yep.
And that was certainly the case here in British Columbia. And, with respect to mining, we've made strides and progress in terms of major mine permitting and authorizations. And that said, there is still more work to do in BC, and I think across the country. But we do have in BC what Canada and what our allies need with respect to critical minerals and precious metals and steelmaking, coal. It's up to us, and it's up to the government of BC, though, to continue to build on the momentum that we're seeing here now in the province, and to really deliver on durable and systemic change across the permitting system, so that every project, not just those that are on a special list or are viewed as priority projects, we need every project to be able to go into the permitting process, and know that there's clarity, predictability, and an appropriate time frame for a regulatory process. Eventually, where we want to see permitting for mines in British Columbia is that it needs to become a competitive advantage.
So, and I want to talk about the pathway to that point. What has changed? Has anything changed materially on the ground yet since those intentions or drives or ambitions to speed up that permitting process started? What's been the ultimate or the very visible changes on the ground?
Well, let me start with outcomes first, and then we'll touch on that. What we've seen in BC since last June is the delivery of permits for 5 new mines and mine extensions. So we had a permitting completed for Teck's Highland Valley Copper Extension Project, Canada's largest copper mine. It's a $2 billion project. Following that, we had Quintet, Conuma Resources Quintet coal restart in Northeast BC. That was in December of 2025. Then we had Centerra Gold's Mount Milligan permits that were delivered for a mine extension there. And then shortly after that, we had Skeena Gold and Silver's Eskay Creek Revitalization Project. That's formerly one of the most prolific gold mines in the world. It was a surface underground mine, and now Skeena is taking it surface. And that's getting underway. It's already under construction. Yeah. And then following those projects, we had Hudbay's Copper Mountain Mine, New Ingermell pit. It was permitted. So that's 5 projects delivered. There's one project that is currently awaiting permits, and fingers crossed, and that's the Newmont Gold's Red Chris underground block cave permit up in Northwest BC in Tahltan territory. Multi-billion-dollar capex. We're expecting a decision on the permitting for that project in the next quarter. So good outcomes. Venture to guess when we saw last in BC that many permits coming, it would be decades. It's certainly not in recent memory. And what has enabled government to get there first, I think, was a solid political willingness on the part of the province of BC. A very strong mandate from the Premier to his Minister of Mines and Critical Minerals to make permitting faster. And then some changes within the ministry. Mm-hmm. There's a standing ministry responsible for mining in BC. So there was changes in the public service in terms of how they organize themselves and how they prioritize projects. And then the public service started to do things differently. Look, to keep it simple, you had areas of overlap and duplication, and areas where some permitting was done one after another. They've started to do that concurrently. So it's, reduce overlap, speed up the process, and we've got some very good outputs. Again, though, I will say it's vital to keep for government to keep its foot on the pedal and deliver, build on the learnings of those projects and implement systemic and durable change so that we get a permitting process or system in BC that is a competitive advantage of the province.
Yeah, because that will take away some of the frustration of some of your members, right? The United States is moving aggressively on critical minerals policy and domestic supply chains, Michael. Are you concerned Canada could already be losing investment and talent south of the border?
Yeah, well, we have this huge once-in-a-lifetime opportunity here in BC and across Canada, and people are now paying attention. we're not the only game in town, right? And it's we need to remain and build our we need to build our competitiveness here in Canada and in BC for sure. Jurisdictions around the world, the U.S., Chile, Peru, Argentina, Australia, even Saudi Arabia. They've got some, $2 trillion worth of minerals and metals sitting under the desert, and they're very focused on it. So that puts pressure on us here in British Columbia. So we need to keep our sword sharp and continue to improve the hosting conditions in this province.
Okay, so when we come back, Michael, I want to talk a little bit more about Indigenous issues. For now, let's take a quick look at your Mining Minutes. You're watching the Mining.com Minutes. I'm Devin Murrigan. The European Union is planning a major stockpile of critical minerals as it tries to reduce its dependence on China. The proposed reserve includes materials like rare earths, tungsten, and gallium. Now, these are all essential for defense systems, semiconductors, electric vehicles, and wind turbines. The move follows growing concern that China could restrict exports during future geopolitical disputes. Now, media reports say the EU is already in talks with the port of Rotterdam over possible storage facilities. Western governments increasingly see control of critical minerals as a matter of economic and national security. For more details, go to mining.com. You're watching Top of Mind. We are with the CEO of the Mining Association of British Columbia, Michael Goehring. So, Michael, you've spoken about the need for Indigenous nations to have the governance and technical capacity to participate effectively in project development, right? Has reconciliation now become directly tied to mining competitiveness in Canada, you think?
That's a good question. I think it's really important to state, while there's a lot of noise out there in the public domain right now about First Nations and reconciliation, economic reconciliation, UNDRIP, I think it's really important to accent the fact that our members here in British Columbia have been working with their First Nations partners for decades. And you see this through various forms of partnerships, impact benefit agreements, participation agreements, high levels of Indigenous employment, business partnerships, you name it. More recently in BC, some equity interests that nations have taken in projects. So that is part and parcel of what successful mining projects in BC do. Okay. What we're seeing now, though, is this big public debate around UNDRIP. And I think, from the perspective of the Mining Association of BC, what is critical here is that government, the Crown, needs to provide certainty, right? Investment does not like uncertainty. Uncertainty scares investment away. A lot of companies just quietly quit. And this comes at a time when mining and metals are integral to our economic future. So, there's a lot of debate here in BC. What's important is that government get back to the table with First Nations and, provide more clarity and more certainty for development projects so they can continue to develop, grow, and get to construction.
Yep. And it's because money ultimately follows certainty, doesn't it, as you allude to. Let's get into the DRIPA and the court decision earlier this year, Michael. I mean, here's a decision that challenged BC's mineral claim system on the basis that Indigenous consultation was not happening early enough in the process. After that court decision, I mean, do investors today feel more certainty or more ambiguity?
Well, if you talk to the Mineral Association for Mineral Exploration, who's really closer to this piece, the original Gitga'ala decision, the courts mandated government to bring forward a consultation process for staking. The explorers will tell you that there were some challenges with that consultation process in terms of timeliness and clarity. But kind of stepping back up to 30,000 feet here, the appeals court decision in December that ruled on Gitga'ala versus BC, the implications of that decision are far-reaching and significant, and have created a whole lot of uncertainty for every business sector in the province. And kind of in mining, the earlier along the value chain that you are in terms of less mature, early development projects and staking and exploration, I think it has created more uncertainty there as opposed to some of the more mature, operating mines that have mature relationships and ongoing relationships with nations, and perhaps some of the more mature development projects. So again, what's critical is the Crown needs to come forward and provide clarity and certainty on this issue of DRIPA. So while the province works through those issues, our mining operations and smelters and development companies are going to continue to work with their First Nations partners to grow the industry for the benefit of all British Columbians. Was one day at a time.
From where you're standing, Michael, what's the most promising eventuality you think could happen if this thing unfolds positively that stands for British Columbia as a mining destination? What would that be?
Yeah, there is an increasing amount of attention on British Columbia. We're getting, more inquiries from Europe, the Indo-Pacific, and traditional trading partners, South Korea, Japan, etc. Look, we have 31 mine development or mine extension projects on the books in British Columbia. These are all of varying levels of maturity in terms of the development cycle. Some are in the regulatory process. Some are just about to enter. Others have a few more years before they get there. But these are all bona fide projects. And they represent a huge economic opportunity for British Columbians. And so, as I mentioned earlier, Prime Minister Carney today said it's time to build, and it is time to build. We find ourselves in an economy with a huge degree of uncertainty and volatility. In British Columbia and across Canada, the province's fiscal situations are not great. There's a lot of deficits and debt. We need mining to help us secure our economic future here in BC and across Canada. And I think, when you look at in BC, some of the changes that are taking place here, I think, mining can meet the moment, but it's going to take continued focus and kind of an all-of-government approach to ensure we're able to get permitting to that place of it being a competitive advantage. So we get that investment in the province to help build and grow the sector.
Yeah, well, we'll keep our eye on it. It certainly does sound compelling for the province. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Michael Goehring, President and CEO of the Mining Association of British Columbia. Michael, thanks indeed for talking to us.
Thank you, Devin. Much appreciated.